All right, so with factoring, basically, again, right now on this page we're going to add some more to the back on this one. We're down to either, at this point, we're going to look at either 4 terms or 2 terms. We're going to start with 4 terms, and basically it's this way. If you have 4 terms, that's where you're going to count. That's where you're going to count and see how many different terms you have. And again, I don't know if this red is going to show up the best in the world here or not, but we'll see if we can get through it. So if you've got one of these, and we'll just start with like this one here. All right, so for example 1, and we'll go back and get the details over here. Let's go with 2x to the third plus 3x squared plus 8x plus 12. All right, and we may have to kind of backtrack and help everybody kind of remember the different things we're looking at on this one. All right, now, when we're talking about having 4 terms, that's what we're talking about. If you go through and count, you've got, x to the third is 1, 3x squared is the second term, plus 8x is the third term, and then plus 12 would be the fourth term. So you're looking at something that you've got 4 different things we're doing. On the last test we were doing, if we go back to the test we were doing yesterday, a lot of it was only 3 terms because we had different things on it that we were doing. If I can find an example of one here real quick. Oh yeah, here we go. So yesterday we were doing this test. This is where we had 3 terms. We had negative x squared plus 6x minus 3. So that's where we're looking at, 3 terms. Some of them it only had, like this one, it only had 1 term at the bottom. But we're looking at things where we've got 2, 3, or 4 terms there because it's got to be more than 1 term. Okay, so what we're going to do is if we've got an example like this, and we'll get for sure one on here, we may have to put some stuff on a separate paper because of just how much room is on here. It says group the first 2 terms together. So where we've got 2x to the third plus 3x squared. What we're going to do is we're going to put a parentheses around 2x to the third and then the plus 3x squared. All right, you're going to put the plus 8x and the plus 12 together. And then one thing I always kind of put on the side, I forget about this one, is that if you group these 2 together, you always want to go back and put a plus in between those 2 things. So reverse of that one. So yeah, that'd be the next thing we'll do. Okay, now here's the one thing you've got to kind of remember. We're going to factor out the greatest common factor from the first 2 terms. And this is the part that we've got to kind of remember on how to do this one. If we're doing greatest common factors with 2x to the third and 3x squared. Now, if it's 2 and 3, there's not a number you can divide out of both 2 and 3, so there's nothing there. But if you have x to the third and x to the second, basically if we're taking out greatest common factors, you take out the smallest amount of a variable you have. So if you have x to the third and x squared, we can take out an x squared. Okay, and then by doing that one, so basically this has, and if you know what we're talking about here with x to the third, that if we kind of put this in here for a second, if it's 2x to the third, that's 2 times x times x. If we take out x squared, we're taking out 2 x's. That means we're going to have 1 x left over and a 2. So on the inside here, we've got a 2 and an x. If it's 3x squared, which means it's 3 times x, if we take out 2 of the x's, there's just the 3 that's left over. Okay, so there's where we took out the greatest common factor, the first 2 terms. The last 2 terms, we've got 8 and 12. And if you start taking out greatest common factors of 8x and 12. So here's what we're trying to do. What number can you divide into both 8 and 12? Okay, definitely can do 2, but the biggest number or the greatest number you can divide out would be 4. So we're going to put a 4 out here. All right, and then what we're going to do to figure out what's left over on the inside, when we take out the greatest common factor, is we're just going to take both of these numbers and divide them both by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, and it's got the x. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So on the inside of this parentheses, we're going to have a 2x plus 3. Okay, and that gets us to step 5. All right, now step 5 is not really a step; it's more of a check. So basically, here's the thing: if we're going to do factoring with 4 terms, this has got a built-in check on this one. That if you get to here after you've done the first 4 steps, you put your parentheses around it, you take out the greatest common factors. This has to be the same as that. If it's not, you did something wrong, and you have to go back and go, oh, well maybe back here I took out a 2, and then you go, oh, well, if I take out 4, well then this makes this thing correct. So it's one of those things that this has got a built-in check on it. So when you get to step number 5 on this thing, these 2 things have to be the same. If they're not the same, you did something wrong, which is kind of good because now you know if you did something wrong. Okay, and then to get the final answer, it says you're going to take out these 2 greatest common factors and you're going to put them together in one parentheses. So basically, we're just going to take this x squared and put it here, this plus 4, put it here, put them in parentheses. And then whatever's in the parentheses back here, this 2x plus 3, it's going to go there. Okay, and that's going to be your final answer. So most everything we're looking at for this part of it is going to be 2 sets of parentheses as we're going through this stuff. Okay, and Abigail was asking about, is this the full method? This is actually the reverse full method. We'll actually talk about full method a little bit later on, but this is kind of getting to that point where we get there. So this is kind of getting ready for full method later on. Okay, now unfortunately, I don't have room at the bottom of the paper here to do some more of these. So let me do something. I'm gonna do this on a separate piece of paper. If y'all have got room, you can do it underneath the bottom. I just don't have room because I'm writing it big to make sure that y'all can see those. But I'm gonna just do what? I guess you could, yeah. Yeah, if you want to do some of these on the back, that'll be fine. All right, so let's go with 12x to the third minus 3x squared minus 8x plus 2. Okay, and again, just count because you got x to the third, x to the second, x to the first, no x's, so you got your 4 terms. And again, all we're going to do is we're going to put a parentheses around the first 2 numbers, put a parentheses around the last 2 numbers, and then again, always go back and put a plus in the middle because sometimes people forget to put the plus and they start thinking they're doing multiplying, and then they try to do the full method like Abigail was talking about in this one. So always, and that's one step I left off there in that box. But go back and put that plus in between those 2 things. Okay, so if you look at the numbers, 12 and 3, is there something we can work with 12 and 3? Right? Because you can divide both of those by 3, right? Okay. Now, they both have x's. You've got 3 x's here and 2 x's here. So again, you always take the smaller amount of x's. So that's 3x squared. Okay. And again, to get the leftovers, and I'm just going to do this underneath down here. You're going to take the first number and divide it by whatever we took out there. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. If you take out 2 x's, that's going to cancel out 2 of those. It's going to leave you with 1x there. And somebody might be going, so all we're doing is just subtracting the x's? Yeah, this has got 3. We take out 2. That's going to leave you with 1. Okay. 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. If you take out the x's, if you had 2 x's and you take 2 out, there's no x's left over, so we don't have to put an x there. Because if y'all remember, if you cancel those out, those just cancel out. It just leaves you with that 1 that's there. All right. What about 8 and 2? Can you divide something into both 8 and 2? Yeah, both even, right? So you know you can divide them both by 2. Now, here's where you have to kind of stop for a minute. So what if we take negative 8 and divide it by 2, that would be negative 4, right? Okay, so if we put 4 in here and we put a negative on it, I'm going to use a pencil for just a second. Is this parentheses now the same as this one? Nope. So if you get here and you've got the right number, because we've got the 4 here and a 4 here, if this sign is negative, so instead of dividing this one by positive 2, just divide by, yeah, just got to change the sign on it. So if you divide it by negative 2, now it's negative 8 divided by negative 2. That will make it a positive 4. So if you get over here and you've got the right number, but the sign is wrong, just take out, an extra negative, or maybe you took out a negative and you didn't need to. All right. And then 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1. All right. So there's your built-in check. You got 4x minus 1 here. You got 4x minus 1 here. They're both the same, so we're good. So then final answer would just be 3x squared minus 2. And then this thing just falls in behind it to make it 4x minus 1.
It's just that.
All right, so let's go 16b to the third plus 20b squared minus 20b minus 25. Okay, so again, first thing is put the first two numbers in parentheses together. Put the last two numbers in parentheses together. And then always go back. And even if that's got a plus sign there, you still always go back and put a plus in the middle. So plus or minus doesn't matter. You take that sign with it, put it in the parentheses, and you always put a plus sign in between those two to separate it out. All right, 16 and 20. They're both even, so you know you can divide it by 2. But is there a bigger number you can divide them both by? Go by 4, right? Okay. So we got 4. You got 3 B's and 2 B's. So again, yep, take out the smaller amount of B's. So if we got 3 and 2, we can only take out 2. Okay, and then it's just 16 divided by 4, which is 4. You take 2 of them out, you've still got a B left over. 20 divided by 4 is 5. If you take out both of the B's, then there's no B's left over, so it's just 4B plus 5. All right, now last two. Now notice they're both negative, right? So you know you're going to take out because there's a negative there. Both of these are positive, so you know you got to take out the negative. If it's 25 and 20, start counting by 5s, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So that one, you know you can take out a 5 in that case. So negative 20 divided by negative 5 is a positive 4. We didn't do anything with the B. And then negative 25 divided by negative 5 is a positive 5. Now, here's the part where you can cheat just a little bit if you do this. If you look at the first one and you're really good on your answer on the first one that's here, you automatically know what's going to be in the parentheses there. So then it's just a matter of, okay, how do I get a 4B plus 5 here? Well, that's just, 20 divided by 4, that's a 5. So if you know what this answer is, and you're really confident, you think, okay, I've got that one. Again, you can kind of cheat because this answer has to be the same because these two things have to be the same. Okay, so for this one, we'll do a 4B squared here We'll do a minus 5 there. And then this 4b plus 5 that was back here. Good to go there.
It's so easy. It's literally just taking it